Good afternoon and welcome to the next instalment in a using dry point card. On the plan chest here is a wonderful array of interesting tools which can also be used in dry point card mark making. The first tutorials were using the basic tools and how to achieve certain marks and giving you the key information. This is now where you can begin to have fun, and you can see the range of different things I have out there, including, kids' dinosaurs, feathers, pine cones. What I'm going to be doing in this workshop here, I'm just doing the mark making section. Because we're going through quite a few different variants of mark making, the inking up is coming in part 2. Otherwise it would be too long a video and you'd all probably fall asleep. So I've split it into 2. Now, I've got a series of dry point cards here. Nothing's on them yet, just plain dry points. I've marked the back of each one for my own reference with the tool, so that when it comes to inking them up, because there are quite a few to do there, I won't get confused. So the first one I'm going to show you is the pine cone. This is a beautiful pine cone, absolutely stunning example. Now, I've seen many students use this in different ways. You will not end up with your pine cone looking as beautiful afterwards, so don't use one you're really precious about. And really, smash it in, really hit it. Again, if you're on a surface that you don't want to get damaged, please put a cutting mat underneath. And I'm really forcing it here. And you can see the end is beginning to get a bit smashed in. It's great workout. Get a bit of that C19 pent up aggression out of it. Okay, a few seeds there. Pine cone beginning to get a bit battered. The more you do it, obviously the more you'll get more battered. That is a pine cone one. I can feel lots of bumps, lots of lovely indentations. When we ink up, it will become clearer how it appears. So that's pine cone. I'm going to put that one side now off the camera because we'll only need those in part 2. Next, return to another concrete stone with pebbles in it. I'm going to wrap up my stone and roll the card around in it, trying to get the impression of the stone on the card. So I've wrapped it up shiny side because you want the impression, and it creates not only the impression of the points of the stone in a very random element, but it also creates this beautiful crumpled element. Again, slightly more uncontrolled, which is really nice, and I like that. Again, it's quite physical, really batter the card. It's not the time to be precious with your card. Lovely parcel there. So you can see it was holding the shape of the stone. It'll be interesting to see what marks we get with that. It's beginning to fall apart. You can keep scrunching up your dry point card until there's, it feels almost like fabric. As long as you've got plastic supporting it so it doesn't completely fall apart, you can print that. That one's done. Dino. Mr. Dinosaur. Oh, so I can't help it. It's the mother in me. I'm going to start, drop, 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 drop. He's going to get scrunched up. Sorry, Mr. T-Rex. So I'm actually going to stick his mouth in there because he's got some quite cool teeth marks. I'm going to try and... Again, you're not going to get the shape of the dinosaur in your dry point card. This isn't what's happening. It's too stiff to do that. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that if you like making random effects that you have not controlled too much, this is a really nice way of doing it, because I'm using the dinosaur to sort of create the crumples on my dry point card. You know, he's got a neck there somewhere, so I'm really squeezing, strangulating him around his neck. Make his head shape, you know, so it's giving volume to the card. Even though you're not going to get an impression of dinosaur, it's the idea that you're not having to control where you put the creases. You're using another object to do that. Dino. Next up is, this is a beautiful, our house runs off firewood, so we have lots of logs around. This is a beautiful piece of birch, wonderful firewood, but also a really nice way to get an impression onto the shiny side. I'm looking for these bumps and crevices. Obviously you could use anything like a brick wall, flint wall works very nicely, concrete pavers, outside a drain cover perhaps. What I'm going to be doing, put shiny side down where you want it. Oh, I'm going to go there. This is my hand printing barren, which I use for printing liner. You can use the back of a wooden spoon. You can hold the card in place and, you know, just give a good impression. You're just trying to mark make the surface again. You're not going to get a beautiful bark-like mark, but you're going to get something that's rather interesting. Again, the harder you press, the more chance you're going to get a nice mark. Just going to go in some of these lumpy bits. And all of these techniques, it's all about when to use them and when to combine them, which is the key with all these things. Knowing when to add bark texture into an image, or when to add the scrunches. I'm just giving you a series of tools here, which you can then go away with and use. Now, the next four pieces of dry point card here, are going to be using these. Got a feather. This is a piece of a metal scouring pad. 2 bits of jute string, nothing special. And a piece of sort of almost like orange netting I just found on the street. What we're going to do is I'm going to put these under my press over here, and I'm going to lay on my textures under the press, under high pressure, and that will create an emboss on the shiny side of the card. If you don't have a press, you can do this if you press really hard on the back with your texture underneath with your wooden spoon or printing barren. Just going to put them under, I think I can get away with all 4. You'll see the edge of the press. I'm laying the string and everything on just completely randomly. If you'll also notice at the corner of the camera here, I've got a mini blanket. It's purely because I'm printing with something mini, and also when embossing things under the press, you don't want to put anything really thick. The feather stems as far as I go. Any thick twigs will damage your press or your blanket. The blanket I'm using is an old blanket that's beyond repair, used in schools and things. So that means if I do emboss the blanket, it's not going to subsequently affect any other printing. Things like the metal scourer, ordinarily never ever put anything metal under your printing press. It can't flex, there's no give in it, so it will damage both blankets and the press. But what I found, the metal scourer is as thick as you can go. You can just about get away with it. So take the chances on your own press as you will. I know my press will be fine, so I'm going to do it. You can also emboss with things like lace, really thick Hessian fabric. Anything with a decent surface texture will work nicely. Okay, you'll see that go underneath. Just realised I need to pull my press out. Bear with this. There we go. It's on wheels, so I can have that advantage of being able to just pull it out. These will be very difficult to see in the current lighting until we ink them up. But again, something to think about when you're working with dry point card. What you'll also get, depending on the weave of your blanket, you'll get a slight background impression of the weave of the blanket. I don't mind that. If you want to get rid of it, you can use something like a piece of upholsterer's foam instead of a blanket, like an inch depth. That can go underneath your press and to be used as your embossing blanket. Again, personal preference, up to you. There are 4. There you go over in the pile. The last one, really basic, but it's a technique I haven't introduced. I want to start using it now. Is we're going to start, when we ink up, layering bits of dry point card and seeing what effects that has. So I'm going to be cutting a series of strips, some cut, some torn. You can see I've obviously really planned this. And that's our pile of strips, which when we ink up, I will see how we're going to use them. So that is the video number 1, and video number 2 will be demonstrating how we ink all that to show you the effects. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be getting inky soon. Bye bye.